Welcome to Writing the Wrong Way. This is a podcast for serious writers who want to develop their skills in artistry and stand out in a crowded industry by taking intelligent, creative risks. I'm your host, Jonathan Ball. I hold a PhD in literature. I'm the author of numerous books, and I take a very analytical approach to art making, emphasizing both efficiency and experimentation.
His name is in all of the credits of our podcast. You can find them there.
So I'm sitting here in Electric Monk Media Studios. It's just this room.
There's more than one room.
There's a couple of rooms.
There's a few rooms.
But with Michael Sanders of Electric Monk Media, director and general photographer and general creative media power.
I don't know if I'm much of a photographer anymore, J-Ball.
He is some pretty
untrue.
Mike did my author photos that I post everywhere. Gregory Kmiecik, writer, illustrator, and ne'er-do-well. Also, I believe a media company now. I'm technically a media company, although I don't do anything. But I do have a business name, Martian Embassy Media.
Here's you doing something.
Is it incorporated?
Yeah. Well, it's a doing business as. My business name is
so
Jonathan
it's not
Ball.
incorporated.
So you have a number company.
I know, like I have a business number of John. It's not incorporated. No,
Yeah.
it's just like a
Sole proprietorship. Business number. Doing business as Jonathan Ball.
doing business. I'm Jonathan Ball is the business name.
Yeah.
Doing business as Martian Embassy Media, and Jesse Hamill, who's probably also a media company. Everybody's a media company. It costs you $20. Jesse Hamill, muse. What do you call yourself? Musician, sound recordist?
I would say composer and sound designer. I also do motion graphics and animation stuff. But in terms of the projects I've done with these guys, I've been a composer and sound designer.
Nice. And
perpetrator of internet hemophilia, I would say.
And Mike and Greg and Jesse have worked on this movie, which we just watched, called Love Song, which, you know, the short film that they're going to be releasing whenever I guess they release it. And Mike had asked me to come over with him and watch the cut and give some feedback on it. And then I thought, well, why not piggyback onto this feedback train? Me getting feedback on a short film script of my own, which I'm, looking to Mike to maybe direct.
Which I'm reading right now.
Greg's currently reading at the moment, and I thought, in the spirit of double tasking, which I talked about in previous podcasts, I would record the feedback on the script for my notes, and also for the edification of my dear listeners, because I remember when I was saying to Greg earlier, I remember when I was, kind of just starting out with things, that I'd be listening to interviews or reading interviews with people, and they would talk about things like getting feedback on their work. It's like, I got feedback on my work from this person and that person, but they would never get into what that was and what it entailed. So we just gave feedback on Love Song, and one of the things that I noticed there, which I always notice whenever, quote unquote pros are giving feedback to one another, it's almost always like formal concerns. Like, you'll get into thematic ideas a little bit, when we did at that point, but it's often always like things like, oh, I wish that was a little faster, I wish that was a little slower, could you take that thing out, that shot would be nice to match with this shot. Like, it's often these very formal technical things, and it's not the kind of stuff that you'll often hear people talk about. Like, they'll talk about these high level concepts, and they'll get into they won't get into shop talk so much. Like, there's this idea that I think people have that shop talk is boring, only other people want to hear shop talk. Maybe that's true, but I think it's unfortunate because you don't really get exposed to shop talk that much. So I thought this would be kind of useful for me and fun for people listening to just hear a bit of shop talk. So I'm just literally going to have Mike as director give me his directorial notes on this script, and what would he advise in terms of the script. Greg, as a reader, writer, etc. Just giving. He literally just finished reading the script. Like, give me like first impressions on the draft of the script.
Well, and for the sake of your listener,
Jesse hasn't read it, but if he wants to jump in with anything or even reread it,
so it's 7 pages. So it's really 6 because this is just
it's very short.
Page.
Again, it's a short film script. It's called Mask. It's it's basically 3 scenes. I like to write short films in 3 scenes, even whether I expand or not in later drafts. I like to just boil everything down to 3 scenes: the beginning, middle, end. Because I think that generally it's just a decent policy for a short film to be able to have really simple expression of itself. Whether or not you want to develop that or expand on it at some later point. Right. I'm also just thinking ahead to some future world where I would have a bunch of different short films, maybe connected in some sort of anthology type way. But anyways, the point is, so Mask is effectively, like, the draft right now, the way it looks is, you've got a scene where this character is in a store, and I'll just maybe post this early draft for people to read. If you go to jonathanball.com/22, you can just read this version of the script and see what I'm talking about. But in a nutshell, you've got a scene where
wait, let me do it because I just
Greg,
let's see if I get it right.
Actually, this is a really good experiment. If you're ever looking for feedback, I say this a lot in my creative writing classes. Let somebody else read your work and then tell you back the plot.
Yeah.
You'll see right away, do people understand your plot?
Yeah, so I
Greg's going to
literally,
tell us what happens in Mask.
it's like minutes old since I've read it. As far as I can tell, and like reading a script is a little bit different than reading a short story because of the scene direction, and you can skim for the dialogue and then look at the direction. But in the broadest strokes, someone comes into a costume shop, they want to buy a mask. They are disappointed because none of the popular masks are there, but there's one that stands out for the person. And then we cut to them, I guess, having got the mask. It's sort of unclear, in some weird nebulous space, like some dream world. And has the mask. The mask is clearly the menacing force inside the darkness of the scene. And then they go to a Halloween party, and we'll talk about Sarah in a minute. I got issues with Sarah. I know she's only 8 minutes old to me, but I have issues with Sarah. And then he tries to take off the mask and tries to wash it away, and it leaves marks on his face, which we see are cracks, and then the cracks on his face become wounds, which he pulls off, and then his face comes loose, and then there's the monster of the mask.
So that's not precisely the plot. So already I know I've got a problem with scripting it. It's very close, but like what it is he's at this shop. He's fascinated by this particular mask, which he ends up not buying it. Going to just kind of weirdly disturbed by it. Going to buy she just buys a generic sort of fan of the like a mask, does some makeup, goes to this party. Again, he's just wearing some other mask now. He's left this mask. He ends up leaving the party to go find the washroom. He enters some sort of weird, like, surreal kind of nightmare hallway where instead of, like, getting to the washroom down this darkened hallway, he just keeps walking. And it just gets impossibly long and can't hear the party anymore. Finally, at the end of this, like, really dark hall space, this door opens in the distance, and a person wearing the mask steps through, is looking at him. They kind of, have this moment. Then the masked person leaves. He follows kind of somewhat reluctantly. That's the door out of this kind of, vague, surreal space. Goes back to the normal party. Then he's, home with, his girlfriend or whatever. Goes into the bathroom just to wash his mask off, like his normal makeup off. Sees like these underneath his makeup some cracks in his skin. Starts to like investigate them, peels them back. The mask that he didn't purchase but had seen on somebody else at the party in this surreal space is now underneath his skin. So that's sort of the basic thing. Now, Greg, one thing Greg's going to get to here is that I've got this, you've got basically two characters. This main character, I forget his name, but like some man, and then this woman.
Thomas and Sarah.
His person he's meets at the party, or his girlfriend or whatever, Sarah. So I just kind of generically, put it like this guy and Sarah. One thing I was going to ask coming in here, maybe you want to dive into this idea, Greg, is I'm looking at it and just seeing like the genders of these characters doesn't matter. I can switch the genders or swap them around or change I could have 2 women, I could have 2 men, I could do whatever. I can't decide if they're. I just put like placeholder genders in. I don't feel the gender is significant in terms of it could be easily changed. And so one question I was going to ask you guys, maybe I just want to start with it, is like, do you think I should switch some genders around, or just be mindful of the genders in
the storekeeper has more right now as it sits? The storekeeper is a more interesting character with less lines and presence than Sarah, who is present through the whole film.
Do you think I need her at all? Is one question.
You need somebody.
Forget about genders for a second, but like, do I need somebody in that position?
You need somebody in that.
I think
you need somebody in that position. You need a foil. You need somebody.
Do you think it matters whether I have a main character who is male or female in any particular manner? Like in this particular idea?
I think whatever you pick, you just have to stick to it. I think the goal here is that you have your character who is suffering the mystery of the mask, whatever that is, and then you need someone to be us and feel the shock and horror of it.
Okay, so she needs,
and I feel like whether Sarah is her roommate, his roommate, pal from college from a million years ago, or his girlfriend,
you see that as the identification.
You need them to be horrified by what they see, and there's no room for them to be scared or me to be scared
because they're not fleshed out enough.
Because it just sort of cuts the end. It's like, oh my god, his face is a mask underneath. It creates a mystery, but I want their reaction. If her reaction is less like right now, she's just like his somewhat inebriated girlfriend.
So you think it should continue be longer than that? Like it should continue past that point?
Yeah.
With that character in more of a sense.
But it just has to maybe be a shot past that point. It doesn't have to be. Like,
doesn't have to go longer. But what I'm saying is,
needs more build previous.
Here's what I say. You have to show the regular world first, right? The regular world of their relationship before you show.
Got it.
Right, and so. That part's
maybe I need an earlier scene.
Yeah, show them as a great couple, show them as a terrible couple, but show them interacting somehow in a real way.
Yeah, I can see that. So structurally, maybe I have a scene prior to the hallway sequence with the two of them, because she only gets established as a character at the end of that scene. Like the way basically it's 3 scenes right now. So like the first scene is him in the shop, second scene is him at the party. She gets established at the end of that scene. Then they're at home. He does.
Why does he need to show up in a different mask? Why doesn't he just buy? What do you have this great joke about? Hey, do you have a Michael Myers mask or something? And the guy looks at him and is like, no, it's sold out. Then it cuts to the party. The obvious jump there is that he's stuck with this mask he didn't want, and he puts up with it at the party. He does want it, right? He wants it, but he wants to be popular, right? Well, he wants the popular mask. He's stuck with the mask he actually liked. He puts it on. It would be startling. It would be a little more interesting. Then he goes into the dark corridor.
Isn't it more disturbing though if he doesn't think he has the mask?
No, you don't have enough time.
You don't think so?
No, it's just confusing instead of being confusing. Like it would be more terrifying if he kept saying no to the mask, and it was all like he'd gone. If you had 3 scenes where he went to mask stores and he kept trying to buy Michael Myers masks, and when he opens the package, it's always this fucking mask, right? Then you'd have some weird. You could build up some suspense, but right now it just becomes confusing that he shows up at the party in a Phantom of the Opera mask after asking for a Michael Myers mask, and then underneath that mask,
too much.
And then who's the guy who shows up at the party with the mask on? Right, but it's not an interesting enough mystery to me. Okay, now, keep in mind, dear listener. So I'm only 10 minutes old.
Mike has
had it for longer. And
I think that
there's more to say.
There's 3 scenes, but I think that, and that's good.
You said before you think probably.
I think it should be 3 sequences. I think that it should. I think it's too thin. I think that there could be more. I want to know more about the guy, and I think that you can. I think you need to bring some character development in for her as well earlier. So,
what do you want to know about the 2 of them?
I think I would just reiterate what Greg said. I think I want more of a sense of their normal life, and then I think it needs. That's just going to set you up for a much stronger juxtaposition at the end.
Yeah. The arrival of the supernatural,
and I think the middle.
You think he's delayed more, and
I think the
normal world more.
The store scene is great, and the scene in the apartment at the end is great. Mm-hmm. The party scene in the middle is the weakest.
Sure.
And it's also going to be it's not like visually is not very interesting.
So like 200 meters from my house is a store that sells Halloween masks, and so in my mind I immediately set it in that.
Yeah.
So there's a sort of front and back area. There's like a room outside. I want to see this open. It's me rewriting it. Sarah and Thomas are having a interplay that establishes them as characters and fleshes them both out a little bit in the store while they're looking for masks. She's telling. They have a little exchange about what a mask is for, right? He's like, "Oh, I want this kind." She's like, "No, we're going to a Halloween party. You know, you still got to be able to breathe. You need to." Like, she could talk about the practicality of a mask for a party, and he could talk about the practicality of a mask for having an impact. Like, it'd be a cool costume, and people will look at him.
Yeah, or even just like he doesn't want to go to the party.
Yeah, right.
Does
Yeah,
right? Like,
Yeah. Why do I even have to go to this?
Yeah.
In fact, he could say, "I have a great idea. How about Bill goes to the party, but I'll buy this mask so no one will know the difference. You won't know who's there, right?" And then they laugh and they have a little thing, and then he goes to the front and has the whole thing with the storekeeper, right?
Sure. Do you think they should buy this mask? Like you were saying, have him buy this mask, as opposed to the mask just chooses him against his will. It's all.
Yeah.
I'll say.
What do you think, Mike?
I think that the hallway is a cheat.
Yeah.
I think it's an easy way to not
So you
have
think
to
that whole
explain.
sequence-
I think that the whole just the scene in the hall, just the weird hallway, is a cheat to not have to explain the mask. But I think you're cheating yourself out of an opportunity to really drive Thomas into the concrete a little bit in that middle bit. Like that middle scene should be things getting horribly worse for him. And instead, it's a little bit ambiguous.
Do you think like?
Or
you-
even
let's
say this. Okay, let's say that he sees the mask, right? But he doesn't buy that mask. He buys a different mask, and his girlfriend buys the mask that she wants, right? And they go to the party, and he's in this shitty Phantom of the Opera mask, and it starts itching underneath the mask. And he's just like had enough, and he's sitting there and he's just scratching away. And then he goes to the bathroom and he looks in the mirror and he's wearing the mask that he originally saw in the thing. And he's trying to. Then he like takes that mask off and he looks at himself in the mirror and he puts it on. And then he pulls the mask off and he looks at it and it's the Phantom of the Opera mask. And he puts it back on. And he looks in the mirror and it's the mask from the store.
See, I would go totally opposite.
And then he's going and he starts to deteriorate over the course of that. Then you can have a sequence in the middle where he starts off thinking he knows what's going on, and at the end of it has no fucking idea what's going on, and then gets up back in the apartment, and Sarah gets him home, and he pulls his face off.
So you want a totally different middle.
I want a different middle.
Yeah, and I want a different beginning. So I want them to
Sound like
show
the
up,
beginning,
have an exchange.
but I don't know whether
Him say, "I'm thinking about this one. I like it, but I should probably go with the more popular one." And her say, "Get whatever mask you want," right?
Yeah.
And then has the exchange with the guy, ask for the Michael Myers mask in the end, and him say, "No, it's sold out." Then we cut to him at the party wearing the mask he wanted, right? A couple of people are like, "Who are you supposed to be?" Right? They have that exchange that people always have at Halloween parties. That if they dress up that's something cool and original, everyone's always like, "What are you?" And then he's eating nachos or he's having a drink or whatever, and he's like, "Man, this mask is hard to take off," right? He's trying to flip it up so that he can take a drink. He has some line that establishes this foreshadowing moment. He goes to the bathroom with the mask on, he takes it off, and we, the viewer, see, but he doesn't notice, that it's leaving impressions on him, right?
So neither of you.
Then when he gets home at the end, it's left a deeper impression. And then when he peels the mask off and peels his face off and the mask is beneath, now we have some horror. And it's a short film, right? So really your only punchline is that the mask is under him.
Yeah. I just think it needs to be, I think you're right. I think that's I like that too.
So neither you like the surreal space of like you go to the bathroom, you go to find the bathroom, instead you get lost in.
So here's where you have the surreal space. You have room in a feature. This is a cold open. If you had 40 minutes for an episode of something, sure. But this is the cold open that just establishes.
It's too abstract to stand on its own.
Yeah.
If it was an abstract punctuation at the end of a sequence, it would work. Yeah. But
like if the sequence is long.
If there was a sequence of someone traveling through a space, and then at the end of the sequence is punctuated by them in this weird hallway, and then they snap to it, and then Sarah's there, and come on, let's go. Like that would work. But
take your hallway scene. Okay, so let's imagine it's a party.
I also think that hallway scene we've all seen weird abstract hallways, so
Sure.
But here's this hallway scene. You could take what you want, which is this surrealism, and what you want, which is some practicality and merging together. He turns the corner. He sees the bathroom at the end of the hall. Normal perspective, right? Normal use of space. Then as he starts walking towards it, we can see that there's a bathroom mirror on the wall. So he can see himself in that mirror, in the mask. And as the camera moves towards that reflection of him, it takes too long to get there. Some weird musical cue, some weird surrealistic thing where you're like, it takes you out of the party for a brief moment. As he walks into the bathroom, everything is black because the frame is so tight, right?
Oh, I see.
The hallway is dark. He's like this weird, mysterious figure coming. And he closes the bathroom door and he's in the bathroom and everything's normal.
Just giving us something about like the mask.
Yeah, give you some lead up, right? But doing something big and surrealistic feels too. I'm always.
It's too big.
It's vague.
And
it's a little bit
too
art
big,
house. And I think Mike and I are both gun shy about scenes like that because we both worked on a feature where the entire movie was
In the dark.
sequences like that, where it's like these surreal
Sure,
elements,
sure.
and you can lose while they're visually super interesting.
Sure.
It loses narrative. Yeah.
I think, and it just goes back. I think confusion just sows boredom.
Yeah.
I think as soon as the audience is confused,
It's too
I think
much, like, it's too long.
it's just
Yeah.
and it's just like not that it's a bad scene. I just think that in the middle of those two other scenes, it doesn't sort of hold its own. You know?
Well, I think the problem, I think the main problem in some ways to me is the Sarah character's tacked on.
Yeah,
That's-
but in a lot of ways,
and then,
Thomas also feels sort of like there really isn't a lot of anything.
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
not
for
super
other characters.
developed.
No.
Okay, for the sake of your listener, though, what this script has done is done the right thing, right? You started with a framework of your basic idea, right? And as a result of it, you can make another. Like you have. This is only draft 2, right?
Yeah, well, draft 1 isn't even the same idea, but yeah, draft 1 was like a
So,
totally thing. But yes, this is
You're
like
not going to
draft 1 of this,
shoot on draft 3 anyway,
No.
right? You're going to want to work it, so it gives you some good feedback for what we think is missing.
I think that it could stand to be I think you have 2 or 3. You could add 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah, I think those 2 or 3 pages
It
are
feels
dialogue
like-
between him and Sarah.
Well, they can't just be dialogue. They
Well, but that's what I mean. Like
mean,
wherever you put it,
fleshing out the first scene.
give
And
me
then,
that.
like-
Give me a relationship
Yeah.
that's normal but interesting.
And then, like at the party scene, let's say,
Yeah.
I think you.
how maybe that's a couple scenes, but nothing too crazy. But like we move into not this hallway scene, but some other like I guess you say
Okay, what
liminal foreshadowing
All right,
middle
yeah.
scene or something.
What if they never even make it to the party?
Yeah, they don't have to be at this party, but like
You know,
I'm trying to
maybe
think,
they
like,
get
what's the
dressed
middle
in
scene?
their. You know, and I think you need
Because here's
to. You
the
need to
structural
carry that
problem.
mask theme into their relationship somehow. There needs to be another representation of that.
Well, the structural problem to me is you've got a mask outside of him on this, that he doesn't have. Let's say that's the first scene. He doesn't have that. He encounters the mask, but the mask isn't on him yet. The final scene is he is the mask. It's underneath his skin. So in the middle, you need structurally a scene where he's again having a more thorough encounter with this mask. You may be right that he should be wearing a mask. Like that might be the more obvious middle.
And
sequence.
thematically, what is this thematic space that the mask fulfills? This is what
Yeah.
I'd be asking myself. If
Why
at
is
the
the
beginning
mask
of the
right?
story a hole is presented, that at the end of the story the mask has filled,
Well,
then we have a reason to be on
I
this
think
journey.
you're right. The relationship, in some ways, maybe is more the key. Because the question, in some ways, is like, why does he need the mask? Is sort of the, what let's call it the philosophical question, in a manner of speaking. So yeah, I need something in the middle. It doesn't have to be them encountering this part. It has to be some sort of like thing where wearing the mask is disturbing to him, but he enjoys it. And then he throws away the mask by the end of that scene. So he's wearing the mask. He has to. There's something that the mask gives him that he intellectually does not want, but instinctively wants. And then he gets rid of the mask, but then now it's too late. He's the mask. Like that's sort of the. Like that's that should be the middle thread. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, probably 2 scenes. I'm not sure what they would be precisely, but they don't have to be at the party. You're right. It might be
I would have the
better
party.
to have
No,
something
I
else.
wouldn't.
Party's hard
because
for shooting.
parties are hard to shoot.
Okay, we're talking practically now.
and practically,
Yeah.
parties look cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Parties
expensive
look
and they
cheap.
look cheap.
They're expensive and they look cheap because
Yeah.
you're never going to get enough people. You're never going to have enough to make it feel like a real party and feel because you're always going to be cutting a couple corners and next thing you know,
So you cut to the aftermath of the party. What if the party's at their house?
or
You
before.
cut to the aftermath of the party, sure.
Cut them
the
getting
party could
ready
be
and
at
cut
their
them
house.
to the
People
mask.
show up and
Yeah.
then people leave and then it's the aftermath and he can't get the mask.
Yeah,
on.
maybe they're prepping. Maybe it's
Yeah.
after. Yeah, maybe it's yeah.
Yeah, I just think that. Yeah, I just immediately I just want it not to be at a
Well, that's
party.
one reason, to be honest, why I immediately went away from a party. Like I was like, you just cheat that there's a party in the background, and meanwhile he's in this hallway. You
But-
just need a hallway set now.
But Greg's right. I mean,
Like,
you don't
you're
even
right,
need to have
you're
the
right.
party. You just show the aftermath of the party. It's easy to make a place look like it had a party in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But-
Like they had a party. Now is the aftermath.
Yeah.
Etc.
Extras are you just
Yeah, you don't want to.
you write them out. Yeah, as much as possible because you can't afford. We can't afford trained extras that feel alive in the background.
Let's talk about this a little bit. When you're a director,
Yeah.
looking at a script, what are you looking for? Like in a sense of what are you concerned? What do you not want to see in a general broad sense?
Well,
you
I
don't want to see unnecessary expense. One, things that are too
Yeah,
difficult
that's
for
as
no
a
reason.
but from a
But you
I
guys
know
did a
what
really
else-
complicated in that film we just watched. You
Yeah.
did some really complicated stuff that was hard to do. There was simpler ways of doing it, but it worked for you. Like this, is what you wanted, it's what you needed. It's different though if it's not necessarily worth it.
I think it's one thing to have controlled complications,
Yeah.
and as opposed to complications that are out of your control, right?
So when you're looking though, like for an idea, and
Yeah.
generically,
Yeah.
what are things you look for? Like if you're thinking like I want to shoot that or I want to script it with that. Like what are you looking for as a director? Is it just a really personal, like, I like these things? Like, Greg is always you always talk on your podcast, Greg, about how Justin likes big things beside little things.
Oh, that's his art composition. It's always big versus small. Yeah.
But, like,
if I'm reading something,
I think thematically people have obsessions. Like, your obsession, which is kind of my obsession too, like, we both have the kind of thematic obsession with the universe is not what it seemed to be.
Okay, yeah, thematically I like that, but I also want in short stories or in any story, I want the opening scenes to be indicative of the entire story and the end.
Sure.
I want it to be
A
contained,
closed circle.
like, and in full disclosure, I have yet to create a piece of work myself that I feel like does it right, which is
Yeah.
why I'm critical of it in other people's. Right? It's we're just projecting my own inadequacies, I guess. But I want something to be that the constituent parts represent
You
the
want
whole
that
thing.
synecdoche in the start.
I want it. I want it there. And so that's what I feel like. If I was going to rewrite this, if someone was like, hey, we're shooting this in 3 days, rewrite it. The opening scene, I would put in
I like your idea for the opening scene.
some gap
Yeah.
that is filled by the mask. There's no reason,
You're right. The mask should be filling the space.
and I'm a student of mythology. I love mythology and big Joseph Campbell fan. Anyone who knows me knows that. But this is the story of the discovery of a magical object,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Well, they arrive in stories to teach people things, right? If this is a fairy tale or if this is a legend, then this mask's arrival has to teach the person that bears it a lesson, and he has learned no lesson.
See, I look at it like
Sarah learned a
It's a
lesson. She
monstrous
needs a different
object.
boyfriend. That's all.
it's a monstrous object. When a monstrous object arrives, its lesson is that you deserve to die. And like the question is like, what do you deserve?
That's a
So he
very
doesn't deserve-
nihilistic.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
So
what the monster in a horror film, the monster always.
okay. So let's
The monster kills you because you deserve to die.
Okay,
Maybe
so
you deserve to die for
Thomas
a mild
deserves
reason.
to die. There's no evidence in here.
Yeah. Thomas
No, you're
didn't
right.
do any drugs or have any sex.
Yeah. Thomas has done nothing to deserve his death.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes it's just like they tell you don't go there. Like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's like don't go to that old house. People don't like when people roam around their houses.
Right.
People around these parts don't like people trespassing.
Yeah,
And that's exactly.
but he's
what
been
they do,
issued
and they
no
deserve
warning
to die.
either.
No, you're right. You're
Right.
right. It needs that build up.
You need to go in either direction. You need to go either he really has it coming, like say for example Saw, those movies, all the people that die in it really have it coming, or you need to go in the direction of Hereditary, where nobody deserves it at all, and you want to just emotionally damage everyone that's watching it as much as possible.
But in order
You don't have
to
to
do
deserve it in like a moral sense. It's just like
But in order-
structurally, you do, like
Right.
Hansel and
But
Gretel.
hold on,
they
wait,
deserve
wait.
to die because they
Wait.
didn't listen to their parents.
So what here's a okay, and here's a great so
That kind of
Hansel and
thing.
Gretel versus Hereditary.
But,
Hereditary is a feature-length film, right, where you have time
yeah.
to mess with the audience. You don't have the time here. Hansel and Gretel is a
You
cautionary
read them.
tale, right, which is very short.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of that
Yeah.
cautionary tale, the rules are presented.
That's the thing. It's all
Right.
rules and whether
You have
rules,
no rules
Yeah,
presented.
you're right.
If he is presented with
He's
the rules,
broken the rules.
like if this is Gremlins, right? Like don't feed
Yeah.
them after midnight, don't do whatever. The guy's like, hey, don't wear that mask. Like that's not a mask for parties.
Yeah, exactly. It could be that simple. Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm going to, isn't this a Halloween mask store? He's like, sure, but that's not a mask for parties. And he's like, screw you, buddy. And he's like, all right, that's $44.95. Right? And off he goes.
right, you're
And he
right.
breaks the rules. And now it's not a mask for parties.
That's interesting.
Right?
There's no character.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
You don't know whether he deserves it or not.
Yeah.
I always love that.
I like it if they deserve it. And I like it if they don't deserve it so that I'm like, no, poor guy.
Well, even if they, I don't mean like, of course they don't deserve it often in the horror films, but it's like structurally there's a rule, they broke the rule. Even the rule is stupid and ridiculous, but like that's like the logic, right? That's the dream
Yeah.
logic.
But there's like no logic
Yeah,
established.
There's not
at
an
all.
establishment of the logic. Yeah, that's precisely right. And you're right, he should be wearing the mask because that's his sin, in a certain sense. is
Yeah,
to-
not that he denied it, but
wore
that
the
he took
mask.
it.
Yeah.
Like the shopkeeper tells him, like, oh, that's really serious. Don't wear this to a party or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does.
And he does. Yeah.
Or the
That's-
shopkeeper
it's
gives
not
him
a
a
mask for
history
parties.
of masks and their role in ritual, and how amusing he finds it that the only ritual people wear masks for is Halloween, and if
Yeah,
he
yeah.
builds a mythology that is
Or
in a couple
he just
of lines.
gets in an argument with his girlfriend.
Could
Yeah.
be as simple as,
She
Like, he's
tells
just-
him. She tells him, "I don't think you should take that."
Yeah, don't buy that mask.
And he goes, "I'm going to decide for myself."
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of an
It can even
undercurrent
be
of
so-
this is the 8th time they've had that
it
argument.
could even be like thematically, like he's acting, he's hiding, how he feels about X around her.
Yeah,
Like he's wearing some sort of metaphorical mask. Well, that's his
yeah,
logical sin.
yeah.
So, the back to this question though, Mike, is like if you're like thinking about like, oh, maybe I'll direct this, maybe I won't direct this. Like, if you're like looking at like a script or even just thinking of an idea, like what do you want? What is your obsession? What is your thing that you look for? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily one thing.
What are the
Like
things
I
that
like,
draw you to a project?
obviously it needs to, I need to connect with it in some way.
What do you find that like is the thing that makes you
Um,
connect? 'Cause
Well,
there's
I
so
don't
many
know. I
great
mean, I
ideas,
really
but-
like. I've always loved dark stories, not necessarily horror stories, but I've always liked really dark
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm always drawn to dark stuff. I mean, I would almost reiterate what you said about, I am drawn to stories where characters learn that what they think the universe was is not the nature of reality at a certain point. But I like it when it's a little bit more like grounded and visceral,
Sure.
and a little bit gonzo. So, like, what's a good, like, I love films where there's obviously you just have a character on a journey, but I like it when it's when it goes downhill at 100 miles an hour. Like Falling Down.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking
is a great fucking, Apocalypse Now is that way too. Not as maybe dramatic from
the
the
story of
beginning,
its filming is even
but
worse.
you just especially the Redux, because it ends just so like it's just over.
Those sorts of the whole world unravels. For
I like a feeling of unraveling. I like a story that unfolds as it goes along. It just sort of peels away and peels away and peels away. And you have this sense of getting closer to something in the center, but you really don't know what that is.
And I realize
if I know what that is already in the first act, I am not going to watch the rest.
Sure.
Like you just tell us.
I'm realizing now as talking about this. If I was going to sound, I like movies as mentors. I like a movie that has a clear thing it's trying to tell me, and I don't always have to agree. Like there's plenty of mentors you have in your life who are like trying to impart wisdom. And you're like, no, and your resistance of that message can create horror. This is what Hereditary is like, right? Like that here's a message, there's a lesson in this, and I don't want that lesson, and it just is coming no matter what. The Witch is like that.
The Witch is fantastic.
Right?
The Witch is great. The Witch is the best fucking ending.
Would you like to have butter? it's so great. That's such an amazing thing. It's that's what she wants.
Yeah.
And she deserves it on a certain level too. By that point.
The Ritual too,
the
newer Ritual. There's a few movies named The Ritual, I guess. The one with the spoiler alert, giant god creature in the woods.
I really love stories that have a supernatural element that is in the world, concrete and has effect.
Yeah,
one of my favorite films is The Ninth Gate. I love. Because here's this at first it's Johnny Depp looking for this.
We are talking about that movie, yeah.
Looking for the Devil's Bible, right? And you're like, this is a bit ridiculous. And even his character's like, this is a bit ridiculous. And then as it moves through, it gets more and more serious, more and more serious. And it has a few classic European touches, but and then it just ends up with a portal to hell, and you're just like
straight up.
Yeah,
there's no...
This is...
no twist. Hey, we told you that's what was coming, and then it arrived. It's your own fault.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's got its moments of cheese, but it's a really great...
I haven't seen that movie in a long...
Exorcist
probably
3.
20 years, but I mostly remember hating The Ninth Gate. I wonder...
Everyone hated it. I never saw it, but now I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. Exorcist 3 is a whole film just about a man wrestling with his relationship with faith, having his best friend having been killed in a possession, quote unquote, which isn't ever even you can tell that he's still wrestling with that. And
if they made it today, they would call it Exorcist Trinity.
But it's same thing. It's just this beautiful downhill slide. Now it gets completely it gets a bit fucked up, but.
It looks like you're drinking some grape juice. It looks like you're drinking purple drank.
Purple drank. I'm having some purple drank while we talk about.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, no,
it looks like you're drinking from a cough syrup bottle.
I do not.
It's just the way the bottle's designed.
Tropicana is doing its best. Okay, they're doing the best they can.
It's just funny
with the market forces they have leveled against them, and this is what this drink looks like.
I bought some Tropicana too. I guess it must be going good. This podcast is
brought to you by Tropicana.
What's your favorite horror film?
I don't. Exorcist 3 is one of my. But it's not.
Have you seen Frailty? Remind me of Frailty.
Yeah, I've seen Frailty. Frailty's fantastic.
The last shot of Frailty is terrible and destroys everything. But up till that point, it's amazing, and it's exactly the kind of thing you're talking about with Exorcist 3. That whole question of trying to wrestle with your faith that you've been brought in.
Okay, I have a question. We're going to pin you down. We're coming back around to your script. What were you trying to say with this?
In a draft as early as this, I don't have anything to say.
No bullshit.
No, honestly.
You set out to write something. I want to know what you went in search of.
to me, that's something you move into in drafts. I think in an early draft, what you should just do is take the idea, without knowing why you have the idea yet. You should just pursue the idea and just try to move structurally through everything. So like look through like the logic. I think like things like the themes and like the ideas and like why you're writing it. I think that stuff like just emerges in the editing process. And if you just follow like through like the logic of, okay, I want to end up in this space, I have to start in this space, what is the middle position? Like I think if you just look through like the structure of it, everything else will. So like where I screwed up structurally, I can look at now and think, you're right. Like I screwed up structurally. He should have been wearing the mask. Like if the mask is outside of him and then at the end is inside of him, well, it has to be on top of his face in the middle position.
Yeah.
Like that's, to me, those are the things I'm looking for in the draft. Right. And then everything else will emerge out of those structural decisions, in my view. Like I'm a formalist in a lot of respects. So I think that if you just get the formal aspects, if you focus on like the formal aspects of like, okay, you're going to end up in a blue place. Well, you got to start but I'm starting in a red space. You know, what's in between those two? Like to me, like that's the sort of way I'm moving. And I think about like layering ideas into it in edits, because I think if you start with ideas, I think you're going to end up in a dangerous spot of just trying to say what you mean. And that's not what I'm interested in the visceral thing that Mike's talking about. Like I want to be visceral and to like have a emotional core. And I don't think you can intellectualize that too much in an early draft. I think later you can intellectualize it. Does that make sense? So like I don't have a thing.
Same thing happens when we're editing. But the film starts taking on themes and meanings that were never there.
Yeah, you have if this then that moments. Right?
This sort of answer to your question though is like the one thing I really did want to get at was like the idea of like, which is an idea I'm drawn to a lot, which is what if a person realizes that they're somebody other than who they think they are?
Mm-hmm.
And which is kind of related to that. I think like the basic move in horror is you the characters realize that the world is not what they thought it was.
So here's some of my process. What I would do is I would take that statement, right?
Yeah.
What if someone isn't, or what if someone were to realize that they aren't who they think they are? And you put that line in the mouth of one of your characters in the opening scenes. You have the character express the theme, and then as soon as they do, you'll either love it or hate it. You'll be like, God, this is garbage. And if the character can't say it and you like it in the story, then your story isn't going to work out.
That's a classic horror story thing too. Like almost always in horror stories, somebody expresses the theme by praising the monster.
Right.
In the early scenes, like they praise the monster in some form. Somebody says something about like how masks traditionally, as you say, like bring out who a person really is inside.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that a lot, but I think sometimes it does. I don't know if I would do it here, but I agree with you in the sense that like it could be.
But then you have to ask yourself practically, what is the purpose of your short film? If the purpose of your short film is to demonstrate to other filmmakers and to producers and to networks that you can produce films that people would watch and understand, you have to use the languages in which those audiences are used to consuming in order to. Yes, you can make experimental films, and you have. Right?
Well, it doesn't. But like you say, like it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like heavy-handed and obvious necessarily, right. But I think you do have like some sort of thematic statement at some point.
Yeah.
Again, I just do that. But like early draft, I guess I wouldn't have it something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be dialogue though.
No, it doesn't have to be dialogue.
It could just be a visual image.
Yeah.
You often will see that actually.
It's stronger in film if it's not dialogue. If it's an action or a movement.
But you're right. Like that's what I have to do in editing. Is get what Greg is saying is like get to like the heart of like what's the real thematic core here, and just sync everything up to that.
Like
and
I've been watching,
like my pet of the hallway is not working with that.
Yeah. The left turn out of this conversation is that I've been watching against my better judgment. I put it on mostly to make fun of it. I thought is what I would be doing. I put on Titans, like the new DC.
Yeah, I watched the first episode the other day.
Right, first episode, way better and darker than I expected. But here's what I will say about that, because we're talking about exposition.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that they're doing right in that show is none of the exposition is happening in dialogue. All of the exposition of, oh, they have superpowers, oh, they're a vigilante, oh, they're a master of kung fu, oh, whatever the thing is that they need to tell the audience, no one ever states it. We see it.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier to do in a superhero show where.
But it is
know.
definitely rare. Usually,
It is
the
rare.
mistake is
Yeah, especially in TV.
right. They tell you,
especially in TV.
especially in TV, right?
TV is
Especially
like
now, like I
my
just
pet peeve with TV is like CSI type shows where it's like they're like putting blood in a test tube and they're like, now we gotta put the blood in a test tube. It's that bad.
Yeah.
No,
So-
for real, they'll
It
spin
is that bad. It is that bad.
So if we come back
and
to
then we
your
spin
thing,
around.
I
And
know.
meanwhile, they do it every day 27 times and they're explaining to one another.
Yeah.
so coming back to the
But you're right, there's not enough exposition.
right, but you
now
could have a whole
visual.
bunch of visual exposition
Yeah.
that isn't on your page. So,
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah.
you're going to shoot that first thing in a Halloween shop, right? Which means practically your crew and your camera are going to be in a place full of masks, which means the B-roll and the ability to cut a whole bunch of things that talk about
Here's what
masks without talking about masks is right there visually. In that edit, you could show a ton
Well-
of the history of masks just by a bunch of cuts around a store that sells masks.
Although you probably have to check the legal of like what can you actually show for
Sure.
masks.
Yeah.
But thematically you're right. Like visually you can really do a lot there. But yeah, like when I'm in draft, like early drafts, I don't want to think about any of that stuff because I just want to like think like, okay, what are my key like punch moments? Like I want to punch a visual. I want a visceral idea here, a visceral idea here. I don't necessarily even need plot logic yet. I just want visceral ideas, and then I want to just in drafts. I'll see how I can connect visceral ideas together.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, like
to
in the
me, it's
visceral
all about
idea of
the
a guy
visceral
peeling his
idea.
own face off and finding the mask underneath.
Yeah,
his
the
visual
whole
idea.
point of the draft to me is to get to an image like that, and then I can just build everything backwards from it.
But like you mentioned Michael Myers twice in the first part.
That's gonna have to come out though.
But you could leave it in and
No,
you could have.
you can
You
mention.
can talk about it. I
Like
you
it-
can't show Michael Myers' mask though. I'm sure. of that.
I
You'd
bet
have
you
to-
can.
I'd have to
Listen,
double check.
listen. You could have them talk about Michael Myers' mask. You could
No,
have the
you
little. You could have them talk about William Shatner because Michael Myers' mask is actually William
Yeah,
Shatner's
William
face
Shatner's
painted
face.
white,
Which is hilarious.
right?
Yeah.
And so like you could have this interplay between Sarah and Thomas talking about like, well, you know, I always thought the Michael Myers mask was super scary, and he's like, well, did you know that's just William Shatner's face painted white? You know, maybe we all have a mask under. You know, like
Yeah.
you have that way in.
I was
So
with
the
you
thing-
up until your last.
Right? It's a terrible line,
But
right?
But you know what though? That's actually a good thing to do in these drafts is write terrible lines.
Yeah, it is.
I always see when I teach creative writing
Yeah.
and dialogue, I say like first write a dialogue scene with no subtext. Just everyone saying all the things that they think and all the
Yeah.
shitty, horrible lines. Then you go back and you rewrite those lines so they're full of subtext and they're not shitty.
Right.
But if you get the beat structure,
Yeah.
like if you just put this the shitty bad lines, but you get the beat structure, like how that conversation goes,
Yeah.
well then you can even replace the lines with an image.
Mm-hmm.
But you know you've got the beat structure in place. So like in the early drafts, to me, it's mostly about like just getting structure figured out. So I would even write a shitty line like that's right on the nose like that. Like even just like as I say like a real expression of the like thematic statement. Like well you know we all have masks on the inside or
Yeah,
something
right.
like what you know
Yeah,
we
it's
all wear
nonsense, yeah.
masks.
Yeah.
You know, but like later drafts, you just take that out and replace it with something.
Yeah. It doesn't take much to make someone scared. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like in the what we just watched, the two lines that I cut out at the end.
Yeah. Are
But you
the
need those lines in draft. You
need-
sometimes
we
sometimes
had
those
those
lines
lines
in
to get
draft,
them. Yeah, we
sometimes
needed-
you even need to shoot them because you need the structure of it,
Yeah,
and then you know in editing maybe you figure out what you can lose in the structure.
but it's darker without them. Like that was what was surprising when we were working on it. And
I find usually that the more you strip it down
yeah,
and like just leave like the tip of icebergs, like
Yeah.
the more dark it is.
yeah,
But if you start in that place where you're too minimal, you won't have editing choices. Like it's
Yeah.
weird.
yeah.
It's weird because you got to show the stuff you're going to cut.
Well,
so you got to
even
script a bunch of things you might even be thinking you might.
well, and performance
even
informs
that
so
whole
much.
yeah, like
You
there's
never
probably a minute or more cut out of it. You know. It's fun, you know. Like the earliest films that I can remember watching are like Bela Lugosi, Dracula, and like the original Wolfman and the original Universal monster movies. Like and I would have been super, super young. And I love those films, but they do everything that we were just talking about. Like there's too much friggin' exposition. There's too much, Except,
didn't you know in that dark house on the hill, a man once murdered his wife?
Except Frankenstein.
Frankenstein
is very subtle still. It's still got some really nice moments in it, especially Bride.
He throws the girl in the water. It's still a great moment of Frankenstein. Because it's just all visual of like.
But the book's very
she's
visual.
pretty. She's throwing the flowers in the water. They're pretty. You throw pretty things in the water. Like it's such a. It doesn't spell any of it out, but it's like, it's such a beautiful like sequence. I think they cut it out in a lot of versions because that was considered one of the most frightening scenes, and I think it was banned.
Most audiences don't want to watch a child die. That's just. Yeah. And I cannot blame as a
parent. Don't Look Now?
I can no.
Don't Look Now is brilliant.
Don't Look Now is fucking awesome.
You gotta see Don't Look Now.
And Nicholas Roeg just passed away.
Oh really?
A couple last week. Yeah.
Nice.
Why is a lot of kids dying on this film?
Well, Don't Look Now is about parents that lose their daughter.
That happens really like in the first few
shots. It's the first fucking scene.
But then the rest of the movie, the guy keeps thinking he sees her.
Yeah.
And then it just builds to an amazing conclusion.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. This is super helpful, guys. Thanks very much.
Always a pleasure to criticize your writing.
It's always good to get criticism, and
it is.
You just have to kind of figure out. One, you want to be asking people who can give you good criticism, but even bad criticism, like even if like I say, you just get somebody to read something and repeat it back to you. It's shocking how much you can learn just from that. Like you can see what's confusing.
But you also have to know where the criticism comes from. Like you know Mike and I enough to know the kinds of things we like, and so you know which criticism to discount if the thing you want isn't like those things.
Well,
right?
Or even just like the biases, and like what's like I don't know, like I know Greg, for example, is always going to talk about the fucking Hero's Journey, which I hate. And me and David Annandale agree that Hero's Journey is the worst, boring shit on earth. But you're correct about there's a lot of aspects of it that really are useful still.
The same way that writing your first draft and putting everything shitty in it. Use the Hero's Journey because then you put all the stuff that is unnecessary.
Yeah, you start stripping it out.
And then you strip it up, right? It just gives you a good starting place. And all it really is a shared vocabulary. If you tell people, I'm using this, and then they look at it and say, if this, why that?
But I know like Greg's a good person to ask about things like he'll tell you right away, like, oh, is there a thing that is clearly missing in terms of syncing the front and the back?
Yeah.
Because I know that's like your sort of
callbacks.
You want that.
I'm big on the echo. Yeah, I'm big on the echo.
That echoing. Yeah. You like that kind of echoing structure. I like it too. I just like it a little messier than you like it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
like I said, I haven't quite got it right yet. So I'm just until I think in one of my own things I hit the note, then I'll just keep being obsessed in it.
I like Mike's an interesting guy to get feedback from, just in terms of I don't have a super strong visual sense, like the way, like, of course, a director / photographer might.
Well, and Mike also edits other people's shooting and edits his own shooting, and then comes up with the shots ahead of time, and then changes his mind when he gets on. So it's like, yeah.
Jesse, what do you look at when you're like composing? So you're often looking at a completed project, I guess.
Jesse did all the music for Love Song without having seen anything.
Well, you hadn't seen it?
Well, I did most of what you're hearing. I did actually without seeing anything.
Wow.
Because initially it was going to be a 48-hour film thing, and preemptively, what I did is I skimmed through the script, and
so you did it based on the script. You did
based on the script and based on what Michael told me. I just made a bunch of stems that kind of fit the tone, that I thought fit the tone, and I just sent them to him. Like, it's just kind of instinctual.
So when you're looking at, what are you like looking for when you're like looking at a script though? Like, what are you looking for or trying to find in terms of figuring out where a sound or visual? One, you're looking for Foley things, like things you'd have to replicate sounds, I assume.
Yeah, there's the practical Foley stuff, and then I also just think about what the tone of a scene is emotionally and texturally, like what you're seeing, what you're feeling. and it's just kind of instinct. Like, I mean, movie soundtracks were always kind of my favorite thing, so I guess it's just kind of an instinct. Like, looking at the script for Love Song, I knew I needed some really pretty kind of underwater sounding strings, and I knew I needed some intense like low end for when something fucked up is happening that can kind of build up. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of instinct. I don't really have a
It's like getting the tone
process.
or the atmosphere, like
Yeah.
trying to sync tone and atmosphere.
And
Yeah,
then
that's the other thing. I always am like looking for tone and atmosphere. To me, tone and atmosphere are the most important thing, and everything else, and like the structure is the most important thing, and everything else is like important, but it's fundamentally less significant, especially in horror, which I feel is so much about atmosphere.
Well, half of that short was shot outside of the day we shot because we had no atmosphere. Like we had the scenes, but all those all the exterior shots, all that stuff was shot a month later.
Oh, really?
Because when I got it all in the edit
'Cause it's
suite,
not actors.
it was obvious that we needed. We were
B-roll,
we were shooting so fast. We didn't get enough. We didn't get enough coverage of the places we were. So luckily enough, we just
Went back to the same
we still
place.
had access. So I just went back and shot over 2 other weekends, and shot all that stuff. But yeah, tone is everything.
I really think that
Everything.
the minute movie is like
Because it's what defines. It's the single most defining piece. And if you have 2 disparate tones in the same piece, that feels off. Like you can have something that you can have a story that carries maybe 2 complementary tones. They don't even have to be necessarily that similar. But
sure.
you know,
I always think it's funny whenever Greg gives me feedback and he's like, it's not clear enough. It's like, meanwhile, Greg is all his books are like, half the time you can't sort out the plot. And the other half, but like the tone is like the atmosphere, like it's really carrying you. Even when you can sort out the plot, it's not the focus. Like the focus is this interesting visual idea, not like
well, I think
what's going on.
It's important to make the audience do some work.
I think it's
because if they're not doing
you
anything,
don't want
like,
to make it frustrating.
it's,
for them.
no, yeah, you don't need to
Right.
make it frustrating, but it's too easy for the audience to treat a film or a TV show or a short or whatever it is as a passive experience.
Right.
And I feel like when I watch something, sometimes I put something on that I just want to sit and I just want to let it wash over me. But more often than not, I choose things that
Let you engage with it.
that require you to be an engaged audience member.
What's
See,
the most
when you talk
common
about my work,
criticism
the
you
stuff
get?
that I do for like middle grade or young audiences has to be like so on the nose. It's just like,
Yeah.
here's the plot and here's what it's about and here it's it. So when I'm doing stuff that is for adults, I'm like, well, you're an adult. If you're confused, you also live in an age where every answer is available to you. Look it up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, just look it up. Like, if you're like, is that an allusion to something or is that like a literary reference? Well, why don't you use the sum total of all human knowledge called the internet, which is really available to you as an adult, to check?
That's
Right?
one of the things I like about your stuff. Is like I sometimes will have people like if I sign your work, some of the students will be like, "Well, I didn't realize what happened to it." Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares if you understood what happened? Like, one, you can just read it again and think about it.
Yeah,
The second time,
read it twice.
it's almost always super clear the second time you read
Yeah.
your stuff. If it's not clear the first time, and like, I think to me it's like not the significant interesting thing. Like your plots are actually pretty good, interesting plots, but like when they don't quite clearly come through, I don't feel it matters.
Right.
Like you gave me an early draft infinitum to look at one point,
Right, yeah.
and I remember giving you feedback on that. And like my feedback, if I remember right, was like there's a couple of places where I was like, you could try to like clarify what's going on here, but like fundamentally it was kind of the confusion sort of worked thematically in that because it's a time travel.
See, but
story.
now we're talking about medium. So graphic novel is a different medium. If there's a hard part at page 80 of a 120-page graphic novel, probably people will push on to finish and
Yeah.
leave a little bit of confusion in that spot. And then if they get to the end and it's revealed, oh, I get it now. right?
You can get away with more in that sense.
In a film, if you disengage, because so many people treat
if
it
you
as
make
a
it
passive. But hold on,
Yeah.
so many people treat it as a passive medium. The moment they're confused, they stop paying attention completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the most common criticism you get? 'Cause the most common criticism I get is about characters and how they're not fleshed out enough. And frankly, I don't care about characters. They're the least interesting thing to me.
Right.
So I don't flesh them out that much.
Right.
And I always have to be cognizant of it when I'm doing later drafts. My early drafts are always, I literally use placeholder names. I use the same 2 names all the time in
Yeah.
my drafts, and I always change them
I
later.
hate
like-
character names.
See, and the criticisms I get are that the themes, that the overall structure of the events are too complicated, right? Like that I could streamline the events of the plot and still keep the visual impact and still keep the character moments intact. And I don't have to make everything, I don't have to have so many twists and turns to keep
It's
track
too
of.
Moby Dick. You've got,
Yeah.
you've got a good story in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what people say.
Right, yeah. So those are, and that's, stuff I'm working on now. I'm keeping that forefront in my mind. Like the Good Boys project I'm working on, it's just dirt simple. The
Lauren-
visual punches are the emotional things, and I'm just like, the plot is very easy. This group of characters has to leave this area in a couple of days, and every few pages someone dies.
Do you ever read Tristram Shandy? You know what that is? It's an early novel by
No.
Lawrence Stern. Tristram Shandy is about a character named Tristram Shandy who is he's supposedly writing his own autobiography, and he takes like 300 pages to get to his birth. Like he's completely incompetent. It's about writing his own biography, and it's this weird comedy of like this man named, this ridiculous, over bombastic narrator who can't tell his own life story to save his life, and so on. And anyway, it was just published as a serial novel. So when Stern is writing it, it's like parts being published, people are criticizing it and reviewing it, and then he's publishing new parts. So at one point, Tristram Shandy actually, and he keeps like digressing from his narrative. So like there's a black page. At one point he's talking about like he's sad about Hamlet's death in Shakespeare, and so he like just puts a black page to like mourn Hamlet. There's another page where he just leaves a blank page, like I'm not sure what to put here, so like the audience can imagine what they want. And there's a great moment where like later on he's like saying previous versions of this book have been criticized by people. I'm now going to pause the narrative to answer all the criticisms, and he like goes through all the things people have complained about his book and his previous, and he like starts answering their criticisms. And one of them is people say he digresses too much, and isn't telling straightforward events of the plot enough. And he says, but his defense is that what a novel really is a bunch of digressions. Digressions are the heart of the novel as a form.
Right.
And this is before, of course, we codified like what novels are in
Right.
a general sense. But I always felt like that to a certain degree. Like
See, whereas film, I think, doesn't have. Okay, maybe not film. Film is too broad, but like a short film like this, in particular, has no room for digression.
no, it is true for sure. But I agree with you in terms of like a graphic novel or novel. Like I like that messiness to a certain degree in the longer forms.
Yeah.
But it can really. But it is a fine line for for people who are just done.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
Yeah, and I think you have to judge people who are producing work by their body of work,
Yeah.
right? So, while it is true of me that my adult graphic novels are a little convoluted, it isn't fair to say that all my writing is that way, because when I write for a different audience, an audience that I don't have such high standards for, right? Like kids need to be.
Well,
Just
both
presented
Cassie
with
and Tonga is very complicated.
It's complicated emotionally, but it's
Emotionally.
practically simple,
Yeah.
right? It's a simple story, little adventure. There's a monster. They hit it with a tree. What else do you
Gotta
need?
hit monsters with trees. That's the great way to defeat all monsters. Vampires, stake to the heart. Hit a monster with a tree. What's the difference?
Speaking of which, should we watch that?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, thanks for joining us, and talk to you guys later. Keep writing around me.